Hey, what's up, y'all? What's up? How's it going, y'all? Welcome back to the Houseless Podcast. My name is Peter Agassi. I'm the host. Thank you for tuning in. Every episode is edited and engineered by CJ Stewart. Today we have a great guest. As always, we have awesome guests. I love the programming here on the show. And today we welcome Deantoni Parks, the incredible drummer, percussionist, producer, world-traveling artist. Deantoni Parks and I met up in Brooklyn while he was in town with John Cale performing the special anniversary shows at BAM very recently for Velvet Underground, as well as John's 75th birthday. And Deantoni has been touring, playing with John for years now. In fact, I didn't really realize that until we were within the depths of our conversation, because I know him from a sort of totally different perspective. When I first came to New York, or actually my second time living here, so I lived here a couple different times, he had a band, a downtown New York band that played a lot at a club called New Blue, which has reopened in a different location, but they were called Kudu. And they were pretty prolific during, early mid-2000s. And it was actually did some pretty progressive, cool stuff that is pretty fun to look back at because it was of a certain era. And the thing is with Deantoni, though, he has existed as a entity amongst groups of varying genres for quite a while now. So knowing that my origin to him was through Kudu, but that he was a touring and recording member of Mars Volta and many projects with Omar from Mars Volta. They founded Bosnian Rainbows together and did a bunch of stuff on GSL and on Omar's other label as well. So yeah, that's the thing with Deantoni. There's so many reference points that it's pretty remarkable when you start talking to the guy. So fans of his musical output are definitely in for a treat with this conversation. And if you're not hip to him at all, if you're just coming across this because you are a subscriber to the Houseless, then hopefully we put you up on something kind of cool. You can find his music most directly. You can get it from him directly at deantoni.bandcamp.com. So Deantoni. And oh no, I totally butchered that. But yeah, you know what it is. Just find it. I've just typed it out. If you're listening right now, then you know how to spell his name. You know what I'm saying? So find it on Bandcamp. I started working with him as his agent a few years ago through Matthew David's great record label, Leaving Records, which had released an incredible kind of solo sophomore album, really, from Deantoni called Techno Self, which we've been touring and doing shows around for the last year or two. And when he plays solo, it's a pretty remarkable study of sort of rhythm and patterns. It's extremely hypnotic stuff. And he's just up there just wailing, and it's dope. I think it hits on so many different reference points too, depending on where you're coming from, taste-wise with music and shit. So anyway, we're going to get into this conversation with my man, Deantoni Parks. He was in the middle of his residency here in New York with John Cale, the iconic, co-founder of the Velvet Underground. And so I think we got a good taste of his story and process. And listen, I appreciate it. If you're listening, thank you. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, thanks so much. I do it once a week. Try to subscribe if you can, or tell a friend about it. Spread the word. You can follow me on Twitter at HouselessPod for any updates with the show. And you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, of course, is a great way. If you're on SoundCloud, please repost this conversation. It's an easy way to spread the word. This is a word of mouth thing. It's not sponsored or produced by any larger corporate entity. So it's all me. I book and record all the conversations. Every conversation is done face to face on this very microphone that I am recording this intro. Tascam. If anyone works at Tascam, please holler at me. I'll give you fire sale rates on any advertising here on the podcast because I use your product constantly. So yeah, anyway, let's get into this conversation with the one and only Deantoni Parks here on the House List. You're here in New York, and obviously I want to talk about the show because you're in the midst of it. You know, you're like literally in the middle of this run, shows with John Cale, and but you lived in New York for quite a while too, right?
I did.
I'm not here anymore, but I mean, you kind of held down the city for like a decade?
I was here for at least a decade.
What was Actual Proof?
Actual Proof. What was that?
Do you remember this?
That was a Herbie Hancock piece. No, I'm just kidding. It was, but
was that the first thing here in New York for you?
Let's see. What was the first thing in New York? I think the first thing in New York for me was in '94.
Okay.
When I came, I was in what was called the Olympic marching band, and we were the marching band for the Olympics when they came in '96.
Oh, right? No way, really?
So in '94, we came up to do a Thanksgiving Day parade, and it was my first trip to New York, and it was like a kid. I mean, it's just if you're from Atlanta or from anywhere else in the world, you want to go to New York, right?
Yeah.
So I was on chartered buses, police escorted, okay, like into New York my first time. So I kind of felt I'm going to have a deep connection with this place. Because you got to think, if that's your first date with someone, then it's hidden.
Yeah, that's quite a first impression.
It's going to be there forever, so.
Right. So, and you guys then obviously played at the Olympics as well?
Oh, yes. And we stayed together. And that was, we ran from the music department at Georgia Tech, which also is a connection that led me to something else a lot later. Okay. But that was all there. That all started there.
Amazing. So, but this is like what? High school or something?
Oh, yeah. I was in high school, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you grew up in Georgia?
Yes.
What was that like? How was that? Because I'm from the South too.
Yeah,
Virginia.
Yeah.
Not, Georgia and Virginia.
It's all this, pretty much the same.
Southern Virginia, so it's basically the same.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I had a lot of space.
Right.
I was very. It's just whole different. Like the social dynamic is very unique.
So when did you start drumming?
Around 2 or 3.
Oh wow! So yeah.
But I started very young, like a lot of people do.
Right.
But yeah, I took it pretty serious right away. Though at like 4, I was reading music and taking lessons from a great teacher, Doug Moore. He's fantastic.
So jazz was it jazz or was it rock?
Well, first was just kind of more classical snare and percussion,
right?
And reading and modes and scales and playing different instruments. I mean, playing marimba, piano. Right.
So maybe perhaps let me backtrack. That might have been a little crass of me to just toss out 2 giant genres. Obviously, if you're being like, it's like with a teacher and you're classically being taught too, then it's a lot more, intellectual.
Oh yeah, from right away.
Right.
Right away. And my my drum teacher was also a multi-instrumentalist who was also played brass and woodwind. I mean, I didn't take it that far. I just left it. I mean, I just stayed within the percussion world, but within that is all I needed.
Yeah, because it's interesting, from the way that we've been working, like as far as the live show thing, and the sort of world in which I identify you in is, in a kind of particular avant-garde, sort of post-electronic, post-rock type of thing. But that's clearly probably just one little sort of side of, like, if you've been drumming since, adolescence or childhood, you kind of work your way through over the years. Obviously, genres and your own taste evolve and change and shit, right? Because even looking at the people that I know you've worked with, it's a pretty mixed bag of stuff too.
It'll show you exactly where the points you're hitting, the frequencies that you're hitting. It's the people that come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first time I actually knew of your work was with Kudu. Because when I first moved to New York, I moved to New York in the late 90s for a very brief period of time. And I went to the West Coast and I came back in 2005. And at that time, 05, 6, 7, like, was a very particular time for music in New York City. Things were still, a lot of stuff was still happening in Lower Manhattan that would later kind of like sort of either totally disperse or move to Brooklyn or whatever.
True.
So
Good time period.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there were some great moments in like, you know, like broken beat and sort of like, you know, new jazz and stuff like that, and funk. So yeah, that's how I kind of came about, because Kudu was sort of like a big downtown kind of band, you know, Brooklyn and downtown, like Lower East Side, East Village type. So what was the story with that group? I mean,
that group was that was my favorite group, if I've ever had a favorite group. Well, I mean, I had a lot to do with it, but it's just I've always wanted to have my own band.
Right.
Since I have been playing for so long, you can imagine I've been in thousands. I mean, just so
Really?
many. Like, I mean, just too many to remember. But it was never, it was never right. You know, it was never because now you're dealing with chemistry. I mean, now you have to like go for what actually is going to make this organism function the best.
Right. Because you were producing the music as well. Right?
Yeah, that's you know, I was like, you know, writing lots of it. Also, Sylvia Gordon was writing, and you know,
the singer, the vocalist, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, early on in Kudu, it was, you know, my Sylvia and me, and then you know, there's Peter Stoltzman, amazing artist, you know, and then, you know, it evolved, and we even had James Hurt come in. We played a lot with James Hurt, another amazing artist, and then you know, and then I guess later at the peak of the band was just trio. It was just Sylvia, myself, and Nikki Casper.
Oh, that's
who
right.
I'm now, you know, in a company with.
Right.
Called We Are Dark Angels. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it's all deep rooted. You
Interesting.
know?
Yeah.
Like when Nikki came in, he brought an aesthetic that was. He was almost like, it was like John coming to the Velvet Underground. I mean, it was kind of like that. I mean, it's not obviously on that scale.
Yeah, but I mean, when someone, comes into an already established group.
Just to make it make sense.
Right.
Yeah, he
So,
came
I
in.
forgot about that. Nikki and you actually did the score, the soundtrack to Dog Eat Dog.
That's right.
Yeah. Dope. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment in itself, too. I mean.
And you see the lineage now. Like,
interesting.
You know, like, I see all the long lines.
Right. So who pulled whom into the film? How did that come about?
That was Dina Gentilla.
Okay.
You know, she's an amazing music supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
She's worked with Cassavetes family and a few others, but she just has amazing taste, and she has an expansive library of great film music. So you can't really sneak anything by her, and if she likes one of your pieces, one of your original pieces, you can consider that, like, you know, a success.
Right.
So she was she was high on us.
Dope.
And she believed in us. Right. So she heard some of the work we did with David Holmes, you know, David Holmes in some of those films, and she'd heard other things I'd done under other people, but
right.
But recognized it, you know, right away.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, you're a pretty prolific dude, and work with, you know, a lot of people. It comes around if you stay consistent, you know. At least how it feels like to me. Again, though. You know, I have a certain snapshot of what your career is like. There's a lot. I like to try to fill in the blanks a little bit too.
Yeah.
Because we work like a very specific thing. I mean, it started with Techno Self, and it still kind of revolves around that repertoire of music, right? Would you say so?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the new. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. But the thing is, you exist like as a solo guy, and that's my way of identifying you. But you know, even in between that, it's like coming out of, say, all the stuff that you did with Omar.
Oh, yeah.
You know, into now what you're doing with John. I mean, they're anchored by like two, pretty like prominent forces of two kind of different styles of music,
Oh, totally different, right.
Yeah. I'd love to talk about the Mars Volta stuff for a little bit too, because it's mostly centered, because you and Omar did a bunch of shit after that too, right? I mean,
we did a ton. Listen, those guys, they're very special.
Well, absolutely. And the lineage of the drummers that performed in that group, I think it's really just three.
Yeah. Now, that's the only reason why I didn't want to play with them, because I didn't want to be compared to any of their previous drummers, and I know that it's people really, I didn't want to even get in the fans' psyche like that, and
their fans
and
are
ruin
pretty,
it, or
right.
like disappoint them in any way, because so
Yeah,
that was my only thing about
that. Yeah, and that's a respectful approach.
Yeah.
That's a mature way to look at it.
But everything else was really a great experience. I mean, obviously, just getting to meet Omar and Cedric and Marcel and Juan. I mean, they just became. We were friends like right away. I mean, or I treated them that way. I was like, oh, we're family now. You know what I mean? And in particular with Omar, it was just like a write off. I was like, if I don't even do this, if I don't do this performance with you guys, and we're still gonna talk.
Right.
So that was
100%.
the.
I mean, stylistically though, you are your own entity compared to, I love John Theodore. That's a homie. Like, and I worked with him when he used to drum for a very brief period of time with Dame Funk. And we did a whole year of touring together with John Theodore as a drummer. Yeah, which was pretty amazing, because the previous one, J1, was our very close friend. He passed away, and John stepped in. Wow. And those guys, you couldn't imagine
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was a tragic loss, but John really came in at a very important period of time. They couldn't have played any more differently. They were totally different stylistically. Their kits were different, but it opened up a whole different style for Dame, who's kind of a master improv guy on stage too.
Right, that's true.
So I can only imagine. Now I'm just riffing off this. I could be wrong. I would think that a group like Mars Volta, that has such a rabid fan base too, a really faithful group of people, that like being able to step in there, because I think the record that you guys did was the last one that they most recent one that they put out.
That's right. Nocturnica.
Yeah. So just to have like a different, looking at it from a different perspective, is for them it's got to be a kind of freeing and kind of interesting experiment too. Like, is that an accurate like way that it perhaps was made?
I felt like that's kind of was a part of the result for sure. I mean Cedric was calling it future punk, and I felt like they were pretty supportive of it, and Omar kind of it seems like he bent it to work for me, because Omar already knew me well and kind of knew my background, and they're actually into the same things I was into, like with Kudu, all the breaking and all that stuff. They were into all that, so and of course they're into John Cale. We all have the same interests.
Right.
Come to find out.
How did you guys meet, you and Omar?
We met, I think Juan played on a John Cale record, or did a session with John, or something like that. And I think they figured out I was on the record or something.
Oh, so you had already you had already been working with John Cale.
No, I worked with John since 2003.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
I was on. I even did a live record with him that we recorded at the Paradiso.
Amazing, dope.
So it was, it was a while, but I didn't know that they were also into John like that.
Right.
They were major fans. So,
how steeped are you in his solo shit, John? So I've been trying to immerse myself in it.
Yeah, I need to make. I need to just make a list for you.
Yes,
I need for myself as well.
His solo career is obviously extremely prolific.
He's not really playing around right now.
Right. What? So that clearly your relationship with him and working with him is like a giant part of your career.
Huge. I mean, he's probably worked with him more than anyone, I think, at this point.
Yeah, amazing. What's it like to travel with him, to tour with him?
It's very. You're always in the music. I mean, if you're around him, there's not much. If there's small talk, it's intelligent, and you may have to recall a piece of an arrangement that we're working on at any given moment if he's around. So if you're sitting close to him, you kind of just like anticipating, like you have to be on. I mean, I don't know. I've worked with many artists, but never a true polymath, I would say.
Interesting.
So it's had a huge effect on me, a bigger effect than I could prepare for.
Right. I mean, that sounds like, that takes serious discipline and concentration.
And, it's weird because I have all the parts that it takes to absorb that kind of energy.
Yeah, but you're such a loose, like, chill dude. I don't, like, the guy I know is like, I mean, I can see, now unfortunately I have yet to see you guys play. So but I'm sure on stage, I mean, you're completely in the zone.
Right. Yeah, it's a whole.
Yeah.
It's a meditation for sure.
Like, okay, so with the stuff that's happening at BAM right now, like, I mean, you're 2 shows in?
We had the first show last night.
Amazing, okay.
VU 50th, and then tonight's going to be the second and last VU show, and then tomorrow night we're celebrating John's birthday.
Oh, shit.
75th.
Wow, man.
So who's a cooler 75 birthday like goer out there?
Right.
Wait, you were in the Velvet Underground and you're like, 75 and you're playing a 50th anniversary show of your solo work?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to give you guys the VU, but I'm going to flip it, and the third night I'm going to give you my solo shit. He's like, I'm bringing my repertoire,
So what was last night? What was it
last
like?
Night I was playing, and you never think when you hear these songs, you hear about the legend. You never think you're going to play Sunday Morning or play Venus in Furs. And I flipped it so hard, like that percussion part on Venus in Furs. I can't wait for you to check that out. It's like really, I kind of just want to put it up on World Star or something. It's just so good,
How does it work with the guests? Because there's tons of it's funny even here at the hotel, it's like almost like being at South by Southwest or something like that. I'm like, oh shit, there's Animal Collective and there's John Dwyer, and these are all extremely established, headline, prolific guys in their own right, artists. So what is the energy like that on stage?
Everyone's super sweet. I mean, most of them know each other because it is the music world is a small world, especially the that end of it, and it's just everyone's cool, and if they're not and they're not accustomed to being around John, so it's nice to see him interact with everyone, and he's so good at directing and just a master. I mean, it's just everyone likes to watch him work.
Right, I would think so. I mean, these are all kind of people that produce their own records too. They're front people in their own groups. Kurt Vile and these people they're their own great songwriters too.
And it stems from a piece of that energy,
right?
That John was at the epicenter of.
Yeah, it's a trip, man. I mean, are you the only percussionist on stage? Is there there's not multiple drummers, right?
No.
Amazing. So you're anchoring this whole thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And do you feel like, do you have it completely under control? Like, is it like a control thing?
I can't, you can't imagine the stress I put on myself.
Sure.
It's just for John. I mean, you just don't want to let him down in any way. And he's not missing a thing. He's hearing everything, unfortunately.
Do you guys communicate on stage?
Yeah, we're the main. We have to be.
Is he looking at you?
Yes. We're communicating quite a bit because he's changing things on site, depending on how he's feeling.
Wow.
So sure, we'll have an arrangement, but you have to understand like it's happening in real time,
right?
And that is the ultimate respect. That's had a profound impact on who I am and what I'm doing.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, that's like every night is like a kind of mind-blowing experience.
I don't think a lot of people kind of understand.
It must be like, I mean, how does it feel? I mean, obviously you just did the one yesterday, but you've been touring with them for years too. But I mean, obviously the Velvet Underground shows are extremely special. Like, how did you feel when you got off stage last night? It would have been high as hell.
Yeah, I was definitely kind of just felt connected to the spirit of these artists,
Of course.
Which is already heavy, but
yeah,
you feel it. I mean, plus being here in New York playing these pieces and with John, John has that energy with him because they were all around him.
Right. Yeah.
Andy, like Lou and Nico and just Sterling, like this whole thing, and all the other people surrounding the factory, and so that energy is something I've been really zeroing, like pinpointing and attacking and going for, and that's how I ended up kind of even meeting Michael Holman,
right?
And I had the pleasure of introducing Michael Holman to John Cale because they never met.
Oh wow!
So things like that are just the byproducts of this focus with John. It's just all about me and him, like because so there's a lot to hold down. I mean, it's a lot of people, and I mean, just doing like run with like 10, 12 people or whatever.
Yeah, but that's got to be super rewarding in a way too, to be like have a level of control and something in an ensemble of that size, doing something as impactful as that kind of music. I mean, it's just such a rare opportunity.
It's super rare, and I'm also paying tribute to one of the greatest rock drummers ever, and that's Mo Tucker.
Right.
I mean, her beats are very iconic. I mean, they're just kind of they're kind of everything. They're like huge towers of rhythms. Just that floor tom and tambourine, hi-hat, like very strong. Did you study drummers pretty intently, like as a kid, like when you were learning, like, or was it not until later. I didn't really study drummers until I was around people that were into that culture, because I don't think you have to look anywhere else really to find something interesting.
Beyond yourself.
I felt like I was doing more interesting things when I wasn't listening to anyone else.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because subconsciously you're being
and then you start
affected.
thinking too much, or so-called thinking.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like a subconscious, emulation, because it's like it's set into your psyche somehow unconsciously. I don't know. I mean,
things get on autopilot in there. You got to go in and set the settings and
for sure
turn off.
Yeah, I mean, the mind is a pretty amazing thing, especially when it comes to drumming. And I'm by no means a drummer, but the level where you have to be conscious of a lot of different things all at once simultaneously, as well as kind of whether I guess it depends on the style, but I just find it fascinating. I mean, but I guess it's interesting in that there is a culture to like, being a drummer and knowing all the drummers and knowing the rock drummers as opposed to the jazz drummers and shit.
Oh, for sure. That is a culture that I'm not really a part of.
Oh, interesting.
It's like the whole, I'm endorsed.
Right.
I'm endorsed by a drum company.
Right.
So,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
whatever.
I'm cool, or like,
right.
I need this company. Like, you don't need that company. What do you mean?
Right. That's what I love about the techno stuff that the shows that we are able to do, is that the setup is so minimal. It's almost like non-existent, and that it's like this sort of study of like repetition, but that builds and builds to some other kind of like, wavelength that's going on, where I think a lot of it is, it's totally subjective to the person that's engaging with it, like when they're watching the show. We had a show here in Brooklyn a few days back, and anytime I see you play your headline shit, I always try to like observe the other people in the crowd to kind of get a read of how how they're feeling this, because it's a very particular style of music too, and to watch a solo drummer, produce a show, it's one person can't do the same set. I mean, it's like if someone else couldn't really emulate what you're doing there,
Right, exactly. That's what's so fun about it.
So where did that come out? How did that idea come out for you to just do the solo shit?
From years of collaborating, I was like always, and then when I started doing the right hand keyboard or left, but just bringing in those fresh palettes to the kit, because I still love those original. Everyone loves like acoustic drum sounds,
right?
But we also love electronics, so the samples just kind of give it that electronic kind of edge, but also with organic sounds,
Yeah, especially in the way you use the rim too, with like it's just such a classic. I feel like if it
it's breaks, it's like
exactly
that's all it is.
Yeah,
it's like next level breaks.
Yeah, for sure. So with other, I'm trying to think. Obviously, I'm not really going off. I didn't prepare much, but as far as your career goes, yeah. But
let me help you here.
Well, I'd love to know about the stuff with Sade. There's something you did something with her, right?
Sade. Because Stuart Matthewman was always very supportive of me here in New York. I mean, Stuart was one of my like anchors here.
Okay,
and is basically family, and he's always working on cool projects. He always had me over and we talk, and just a great person. And eventually it was like, this is, Sade's doing this run on TV. It's gonna be, great if you can do it, because, we need that, like, they needed a particular thing. Like the snare piece that they really needed to get nailed. And, so they called me in addition to her band. So I wasn't playing drums on this particular thing, although I could have played both parts easily. But that was what he wanted me to do, and I was like, of course, I'll do whatever you want. And so that was David Letterman, Ellen, Jimmy Kimmel. We did all that whole run.
And you were just freaking the snare, and that was it?
I had this very specific snare part that she wanted, because she's very specific, and
I would think so.
Yeah, and like everything had to. I mean, I showed her the chart. At one point, I was like, "Yeah, this is it right here."
Could she read it? I mean, did she obviously? Yeah. Probably...
Oh, well, she just, I had to prove a point or something, or.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then and I was like, yeah, I wrote it out. This is what I'm playing every single time. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well,
but that's because of Stuart. Stuart got me in there. Stuart, he loved Kudu, so
right.
Just
interesting.
He's one of the people that were very supportive during that time.
How much touring did you do with Mars Volta? Did you do a little bit around that album, or?
We toured. It wasn't that much.
Right.
I toured more with them before that album, actually, when I wasn't.
Oh, I see.
When I wasn't in the group.
So it was a little. How much time before that record came out were you joined as a touring drummer first?
Yeah.
Exactly. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Exactly. And then from there, from the Mars Volta, we jumped in. Me and Omar just went crazy.
Yeah. Well, first with his solo band, with his band.
Yeah, I was playing. Yeah, exactly. Technically, I was playing with Omar's solo project first.
Ah, okay.
Before the Volta.
Did you play in El Paso?
We did a festival there.
Dope.
Yeah, it's tight.
That must have gone off.
I filled in for like a drummer. They had some issue with someone, and they were on that Red Hot Chili Pepper run. So
right.
That's the very first thing I did with them. And then I started doing like Omar solo stuff.
So was that stadiums and shit then, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I was still, I was playing with John at the time,
right.
So I could only do like a few weeks or whatever. But I went ahead and did it with them. and then I had to go back to John, and then yeah.
So you've just been touring this whole time, just going back and forth between projects.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that was tour. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Lots of planes.
Yeah, and I mean, all over the globe too, right?
And then and someone who came last night was Chris Bruce and Meshell Ndegeocello, who was also a huge family member. And
right, you played. I mean, you toured with her too, right?
Yeah, that was before the Volta. That was before John.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Or after, or before and after. It's like they all overlap now.
Right.
But she is, she came last night. She actually played a show with us, with John and us in like Melbourne
Dope.
Yeah, like the music festival there.
Right.
But she's like one of my favorites ever. I mean,
so what was that ensemble like? Was it another big band? Like, I would assume she
probably
have
a ton of usually Chris Bruce and Jebin Bruni. I mean, just herself.
Of course.
It's crazy.
So going into just like your solo shit too, I mean, and feel free to interject too, because I'm just trying to get a sense of it. I mean, now because we've never really had a chance to sit down like this and like me drill you about like your past, but it's like it gives me a lot of context for.
We need to do it anyway.
Yeah. So the whole thing with like Leaving Records and Matthew David and Techno Self, it's like such a different kind of part of your world. So how did you connect with Matthew and like? Because that's actually how we truly know each other through Matthew David,
and that would be Carlos Ninos.
Oh, cool.
So he's booked Kudu
right
back in the day. He got us out to L.A. He's just been there through everything. I mean, Bosnian Rainbow started.
That's right.
Right after we did a show at his spot in Venice.
Yeah, the Townhouse place.
The Townhouse, yes. So we did a We Are Dark Angels show, and he was like, "You should feature Omar here." I mean, because we were just gonna do a full-on We Are Dark Angels experience, but just me and Nikki. Right. He was like, "You guys should probably, because he's just thinking out of the box."
Right.
He's like, "This is where you are. Like, you have." These are the people you're working with,
right.
Invite them. So we're like, yeah, well, we'll see. Omar doesn't do many things outside of what he's doing because he's doing so much. So we're not going to think to ask him.
His world is pretty involved.
It's very involved, right. And I have so much respect for that. And for him.
Yeah, I mean, and just a side note too, just the output that GSL had as a label was just like phenomenal too. Just. Every record sort of being this totally weird, wild, like different thing from the last, and he did he did like 10 albums at once or something like that, right, or something along those lines. Do you play on those?
Oh, that run where he just released didn't he release like 20-some albums?
Yeah,
I played on a lot of those. Yeah.
Yes. So what's your guys' dynamic like?
That's my brother, man. He's Omar is. He's done a lot for me,
right?
Like he's just been like a real person, and like in that time period when I was really like trying to like get Kudu out there, and,
right?
Like he offered something. I mean, he just showed up and like showed out. I don't even know how else to say it, but yeah, he was a real person.
Yeah,
and obviously very gifted and thoughtful and thinking, and you know what I mean. So those are the kind of things that I was used to that with John. I mean, that's kind of the level of people that I kind of need.
Right.
I can't even have anything less than that, and I had that in Kudu.
Right.
With Nikki and Sylvia, they're robust artists.
Right.
That are better than. I mean, just a different level, and so there's a same with Meshell, and then so you start to see like these flags of okay.
What was it? You did some shit with Flying Lotus too, right?
I was on I was on the You're Dead record.
Oh.
Like I'm on that single with Kendrick Lamar. It's like one of my favorite tracks on that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But and I'm on a couple other tracks on that too. Steve he's just been awesome to me.
And he pulled you in. He was just like, "Yo, I want you to drum on this."
I didn't even know. I mean, I ended up at his house at some party once, and I didn't think he knew who I was. You know, I just didn't. I didn't know, but he let me know. And then he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna be on these records." You know, so anytime I'm in LA, I hit him.
Dope.
Again, it's that whole. These are like, I could just hang with these people. These are just people I can hang with. That little. I mean, I think they do know, but that's kind of what I need it to be.
Right, absolutely. Especially for a guy that's constantly traveling and touring, and like you're in a different country, like constantly moving around. I would think that, you know, the friends that you do have, it's like you kind of, you know, it takes a minute, especially for musicians, you know, to kind of be on the same like level of engagement, you know, with your art and shit, you know.
Yeah,
because you don't have a lot of free time, right? I mean,
exactly. So it does work out to be like that, and I mean, and I hear myself telling other people like, yeah, I'm so lucky that these people I like working with are like my family, and then they're like, well, they better be, because that's your life. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that is why that energy is there, but regardless of why, I'm glad it happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've been very fortunate with that people care a little deeper.
Yeah, man. So what's this? Okay, so going into the new year, you know, we got, because, you know, this shit with John is going to continue on as far as touring, and I don't mean to put it in those terms, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as far as this job with him, your commitment to him, it's you're in it. Right?
I'm in it. That's whatever he wants, I'll be able to do.
So what else are you working on for yourself, though?
I got this George Michael tribute.
Okay, so what's that? What's that all about?
That's just you know, just showing love to the spirit and aura of him, which I think
amazing artist
is cool to do. I think that's
so
a
too.
Cool gesture. So, and the record is called Saint George Michael, and it's going to be coming out on a label called Elite Records.
Okay, yeah,
and out of Hamburg.
Dope. Okay,
and they've already re-released Touch But Don't Look.
Oh yes, which is your debut album, right?
Yeah, and I originally released that with Omar, and so they've been great, and they're down to roll. They're like, whatever you want to release, let's plan it, let's go.
Cool.
So very cool.
Yeah. So tell me though, what are the songs like? Are they Reef Freaks or what?
Yeah, I'm gonna play you a little bit right after this. Cool. Unfortunately, we can't just play it live for the.
No,
we can set something up later, but yeah.
And I might, in the intro and the outro of my show, I like to play a little bit of music. Maybe I can splash one of those out in the outro or something.
I think we can work something out.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool.
We'll put an outtake up.
Yeah, yes, for sure. And what else? Like, what else are you working on right now?
Well, We Are Dark Angels is we're gonna put we released a digital album called Look This. Okay. But we're gonna release that on vinyl ASAP, and probably. Through that new situation I mentioned earlier, which would be great, you know.
Yeah.
Because that record it's going to be good for people to license out and use for film, and you know, it's basically the precursor to our original soundtrack, which is available right now.
So how is Paul Schrader? Like, did you spend any time with him over the course of making the music? You know?
Oh yeah. We had to meet with him every day.
No way.
Or it was like we had to meet in the office when he, and be close by.
Yeah.
And just basically go through it. That Paul is so detailed about everything. Of course, the music as well.
Were you watching scenes? Were you playing the scenes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we had to. I mean, we would sit and go through scenes with him, and then go to the studio and handle it, and then come back the next day with the cues to then play for him. You know, so that was I mean, and Nick and I work very quickly. That's our whole thing. I mean, it's useful in today's pace.
Well, even with the shows that we do, I mean, the fact that it's so minimal and so like yet so involved artistically. You know, it's kind of amazing how like you can just sort of, you know, like saunter into a room and jump on stage and then immediately get into this like extremely heady like stuff as though it's just like turning on a light switch.
Stream.
Yeah, definitely. I dig it, man. I mean, and the fact that we could just, you know, catch up real quick in between these like, you know, pretty legendary
These
shows.
are monster shows.
Yeah.
I mean,
how are you feeling?
For me
right
personally, it's just kind of like Cloud9 level.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I like, that boom of art that happened in New York is just still radiating, you know?
Yeah, you can still access it, you know? Like yesterday, I recorded a conversation with an amazing actress and musician, Esther Ballant, who was in Stranger Than Paradise and Trees Lounge. But her parents, you know, had this place called Squat Theater, which was like in the late 70s, early 80s, was like a kind of hub for like experimental theater and music, kind of for a period of time, where, you know, the house bands it was Sun Ra, DNA, and Kid Creole and the Coconuts, you know, and they would kind of rotate over this period of time. So, and I don't doubt that John Cale went to that. You should ask him if you've seen him, like, if he remembers the Squat Theater.
Wow.
And just that, like, that, you know, I was born in 79, so, and I didn't come to New York until much, much later, so I wasn't able to personally access that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still, even though I feel like the canvas of this city is altering, and the texture is getting a little flattened out a little bit, you know, as far as culturally and the soul, but it's not too difficult to still access.
No, it's still here. I mean, I think that's just more laziness than anything else.
Right, yeah.
I do feel that.
Right.
Not from me, but...
No, you're not lazy at all. I feel like, there's a general, like, malaise in society anyway, where it's like...
Oh, yeah, it's all... kind of it's a little glazed over,
and
people are like, you know, and plus it's why wouldn't it be? It's intimidating,
right? It's
just the pressure is just too. It's like makes you just want to give up. I mean, it's like what?
I think a lot of people are in the process,
and I don't get mad. I'm not mad at those people. I don't. I try to like worship those people. You should, you know, they're the real leaders. Like,
yeah. I mean, but until then, I mean, you're doing your thing, and I love what you do, man, and I love being able to work with you on this stuff too. So, and that you take a little bit of time to do this conversation with me is cool. So, good looking out.
Honored.
Yeah, much continued success. You know, you've been doing it. I mean, not a lot of people can say that they've done and moved in the circles that you have. So it's pretty amazing, you know, to take stock in that. You know, so
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's
the only thing I invested.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you, my man. Appreciate it. Yes, that was my conversation with Deantoni Parks, only here on the Houseless Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, y'all. iTunes. Rate it on iTunes if you can. Repost it on SoundCloud. Go cop Deantoni's music directly from him on Bandcamp.com. Deantoni.bandcamp.com. If you haven't got that Leaving Records album, Techno Self, please do that. And, you know, he has a special George Michael joint kind of remix edit thing, so I'm gonna splash out a little bit of that just as a little taste. I know it's coming out midwinter, so I don't want to say any dates, but I'm sure you can go back to that Bandcamp page soon enough and it'll be there. Definitely cop that and just support this guy. He's an incredible visionary artist. He's got so many amazing ideas and is able to accomplish a lot within a whole sphere of different genres of music. So this is a guy to discover and support, you know, and another progressive innovator that we've had here only on the House List with your host, me, Peter Agostin. Every episode is edited and engineered by CJ Stewart. Follow us on Twitter at HouselessPod and help us get the word out. Let's spread the word out. Been doing this now for well over a year. And delivering you compelling, one-of-a-kind, personal, candid conversations with artists and people in the music industry. These are all people I know and work with and have stories with, and some I don't. So you're always going to get something unique and interesting, all produced and booked by me, your host. Thanks. I will catch you guys next time. Enjoy the vibes on this new Deantoni joint I'm going to play right now, and I'll catch you guys in the next show. All right, peace out.
The